For impression taking, we have to make sure we're using the correct tray for every impression, and we have to make sure we're not using too little or too much impression material. So what's important when taking an impression is that you've got enough material to capture the prep, the adjacent teeth, and the opposing. If you put too much impression material, you risk basically getting it down the patient's throat, it being very uncomfortable, it going all over the place. If you use too little impression material, you risk not capturing enough detail, having too little to stabilize the actual material, which will lead to distortions. So the problems that we have with non-rigid trays, such as a triple tray, is that there's flexibility in the tray. So unless we're using a rigid metal reusable triple tray, which we don't have, you need to have enough material in there lengthways to basically stop it potentially distorting. So if we're taking an impression of a premolar or a molar in this area, we don't want to put impression material just in that area alone, because then there's always a possibility that you will get a bit of distortion. Ideally, if we're taking a mold of a tooth, let's say here, we want the impression material to cover the entire tray. What we don't want is impression material spilling over considerably over each edge. One thing to take into consideration is you need more material on the side where the prep is versus the opposing side. In instances where you might be doing one or two anterior teeth, a smaller anterior triple tray is an appropriate tray to use. If you're going, let's say, from 4 to 4 or beyond that, using a larger anterior triple tray is appropriate. If you're doing a full mouth rehab, it's never advisable to use a triple tray. You always should be using 4 trays. What I like to use, whether I'm doing an upper or lower full arch impression with heavy body, is to use a lower tray only. You'll find that that contains the heavy body a lot better than using a full arch tray, which you don't typically need. Usually if you use a lower tray, that gives you enough detail for the upper arch as well as the lower arch. For temporaries, if you're doing, let's say, anything from the premolar to molar region, just using one of these half trays is good. If you're doing anterior teeth, you can use one of these, or again, you can use a lower tray for the anterior, and that stops your pentamix going all over the place. What I'll do is now, I'll show you exactly how much material we need to load for a premolar or molar impression. So imagine if we've got a premolar tooth that we need